Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for our second webinar of November, but the first webinar with RBC this month. My name is Sonia Siddiqui, and joining me today is Abbas Ishaq from RBC. Abbas, you want to say a quick hello?
Hi everyone.
So Abbas is a senior Scrum Master at RBC, and he'll be telling us more about himself later, and he'll be talking about the Scrum framework and career opportunities in the Agile field, which is booming and growing, especially in the banking industry.
All right, thank you so much, Sonia, and hello everyone. Let me first start by giving you a brief introduction of who I am. So I came to Canada in 2006, and I've been working for RBC for over 3 years. Currently, I'm working as a senior Scrum Master, and we'll understand Scrum when we go to the next slide. But you'll get more detail of what I do in RBC. I've been very much involved in teaching and training, project management, business analysis, and agile practices. And I'm also engaged in transformation of RBC into more agile capabilities. I know I keep on using the word agile and Scrum. Most of you might not have the idea what it is, but we will get to learn it when we go through our next slides. If we go to our next slide, Sonia. All right, so let's start our session. I'm hoping most of you will have a little bit of understanding of Scrum. If you don't, that's okay. The purpose of this training or this webinar is not to give you detailed information about Scrum, because that takes some practice and a few years to master it. But what I'm hoping for today's session is to give you a basic information of what Scrum is and why companies are going Agile, and what career opportunities we have in Agile. If we go to the next slide. All right, so today's agenda, I'll tell you a bit more about myself and my experience. I will also talk about what Agile is and why, or how is it different, why companies are going Agile, what is Scrum, and what are the career opportunities in Agile. I'm hoping to get all of this agenda item completed in 30 to 40 minutes so that we can open up the session for question answers. I like it more interactive webinar, so I'm hoping that you guys have a lot of questions at the end. So if you go to the next slide. All right, let's start by my experience. It all began in 2006 when I came to Canada. The first job I got in Canada was as a business analyst, and it was at a company, Aon. I stayed there for almost 5 years because I wanted to really understand what business analysis is, and I wanted to master it. While I was working at Aon, I wanted to see what other opportunities are out there. So I did a little bit of market research, and I got to know that there's a whole field in business analysis. And to get that exposure, I wanted to join a company that will give me an opportunity to start to work on a project from initiation to closure. So after that, I applied to Manulife, and Manulife is a great place to come to work for. It's a biggest insurance company in North America. So I joined Manulife in 2011 as a business analyst, and I started my progression by learning about business analysis in more detail. So there's a certification called CBAP. It's offered by IABA, and this is only offered to people who have few years in business analysis practices. So you have to go through the all learning options and the path, and you also have to prove that you are capable as a business analyst. So I took that certification, and then I joined RBC as a senior business analyst. After joining RBC, I wanted to learn and expand my horizon. So I wanted to become a project manager. In 2016, again, I did another certification, which is known as PMP, and I'm sure most of you will be aware of that. And after doing that, I became a project manager. Since I love training and teaching, and I apply that on myself as well, so I keep on updating myself in terms of learning new trends, learning new skill set. I knew that there's a change in the market, and the change in the market was that a lot of companies are now understanding and they want to go agile. So what I did, I wanted to get into the agile field as well. So in 2017, I did my certification in Scrum Master and then officially became a Scrum Master. And now I've been working as a Scrum Master, and I also completed just recently a Kanban certification, which is also part and parcel of Agile methodologies. If we go to the next slide. Now, before we start understanding Agile, I think it's very important that we understand what project is. If you are a project manager, you will totally get this. But if you're not a project manager, then let's just understand what the project is all about. Project is any temporary endeavor that has a definite beginning and a definite end. That means it has to start and it has to complete. Once it's completed, it has to deliver something unique. It can be a result or it can be a product. Let's say one of the project is to develop iPhone. So iPhone has to be a project which started and it completed. Once it was completed, a Apple iPhone was created. If you go to the next slide. Now, how do we manage a project? There are different ways to manage a project. One of the most traditional way or the common way is known as waterfall methodology. In waterfall methodology, what happens is you understand what is that you need to develop. So you get the requirements. Once you understand exactly what you need to develop, then you design it with solution architects. Once it's designed, then you implement it. And once it's implemented, then you deliver it to the market. So as you see, every step has to be completed before you move on to the next step. So this is what waterfall methodology is. Now, let's take an example. Let's say you are a business owner and you want to start your online business to sell, let's say, cakes. So you come to me and you tell me, Abbas, we need to create a website, and we need the ability on the website to show ourselves to the world, show to the world what we do, what kind of cakes we make, and we also need an ability to sell them. And I'll say, perfect, let's sit down, let's understand exactly what you want to see on your website. So I'll take few months to gather to gather those requirements. Once I have the complete set of requirements, then I'll design it, I will create it, and after, let's say, 6 months, I will have the website ready for the client. Now the challenge is, for the 6 months when I was trying to create that website, the client was out of business. So he did not have a website to sell his business. He was not making any money. So this is a long term or long time for anyone to stay out of business. So this is a shortcome of waterfall. If we go to the next slide, let's understand some of the challenges in this approach. So of course, we understand one of the challenges, the client was out of business for 6 months. So until he has a website, he's not able to sell anything. The second thing is market realities. Now, what does market reality mean? Nowadays, we are living in a world which is very disruptive. That means anyone can actually create an application for Android or for Apple, and they can start doing their business. So if that's the case, then anyone or any organization, which is, let's say, a huge organization, cannot afford to create something that takes that much long. They have to be fast, right? Because market changes. The second thing is, while let's just take the example of creating a website again. So while I was creating that website for 6 months, the stakeholder or the client that I was working for, his influence was decreased the moment I started building it. That means he cannot come to me and he cannot keep on changing his requirements, because of course, every time he changes anything, I would need much more time to create that website. So instead of 6 months, it might take 8 months to make that website. So the stakeholder influence is very limited. And now we understand, knowing that the current market realities is that anyone out there can do anything, or they can start a small business that will disrupt our business. We need an ability for stakeholder to make changes, understanding the market realities, right? So that is not something approachable in terms of if you're using waterfall methodology. And the last thing is, it's costly. Of course, you have to give all the requirements. First of all, as a client, you need to understand all the requirements. and then you have to give those requirements to somebody to develop, and then all of this process will take a lot of time. So for me to create a complete package for you, a complete website, you have to know exactly how much it will cost you, and that is costly. Now if you go to the next slide, now this is where people thought, you know what, this waterfall approach is not that much productive. We can surely use it in a lot of different companies, or a lot of the different technologies which are full of risk. But when we talk about strictly on software development, then we need to be more agile. Agile meaning we need an ability where we can change the requirements anytime we want, and we need an ability to develop something faster. And that gave the birth to Agile. Now, let's understand the Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto is a set of 4 rules that you see on your screen right now. These are very simple rules. So if you're following these 4 rules, that means you are agile. The first rule is individual and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And responding to change over following a plan. So Agile does not say that anything which you see in the bottom does not have value. Agile just says that everything that is in blue on the top holds more value. So you'll see if you work as a project manager, you know that a lot of times we spend too much time on the documentation instead of actually creating or working or creating a website. So Agile says documentation is important, but it's not more important than actually creating something. So these are the 4 set rules of Agile, and if you follow these 4 set rules of Agile, that means you are Agile. Now, if we go to the next slide, now how do we apply Agile? That's the next question, right? So there are different frameworks that are available. Now think of these frameworks as just something which is off the shelf. So it's available, you know exactly how to apply them. You can take any framework that you like and you can apply it to your organization, to your project. So instead of creating a brand new framework of your own, which will take you a lot of time, you just use these framework off the shelf and you apply it to your organization or to your project. And then you keep on tailoring it based on what works on your project or what works with your team. So some of those frameworks are Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Safe, Less, and XP. These are the well-known one, and Scrum being one of the most, Scrum and Kanban being the most famous one out of all of them. If we go to the next slide. Now, coming back to my example, creating a website. Now, if the same client comes to you guys and asks you, okay, I need I need a website so that I'm able to sell my cakes to the world. If you have an agile mindset, you will ask, okay, uh, what out of that website, what is the most important thing that you need right now, or let's say in a week's time, to get started? The client might say that, you know what, instead of you creating the whole website, if you can just give me a home page which has my description and my contact information, that will at least give a face to my company, and I can start communicating with other people that, yeah, I have a business, and they can contact me directly on the phone, or they can come to my office. Perfect. So now we know the most important thing that the client needs immediately to start his business. This is known as minimal viable product. So we develop this homepage in a month's time, let's say, and the client is able to start his business. So instead of creating the whole website, which took us 6 months, now we develop something which is consumable for our customer within a month. After a month, what happens? We will repeat the same question. What is the next thing that you need that will add the most value to your business? And he will give you something else. So what happens is every month you're building something which has the highest value to the client. So this is known as iterative approach, which is embedded in your Scrum, Kanban, or Agile practices. Moving on to the next slide. So now let's understand Scrum in particular, and let's understand what are the different roles that you need to have in order to apply Scrum framework. There are only 3 roles in Scrum framework. The first one is product owner. Now, who is a product owner? A product owner is a person who understands the product. He's the one who's giving you all the requirements, and his responsibility to prioritize those requirements. In our case, the client was our product owner because he had all the requirements for the website, and he was able to prioritize those requirements for us. The second thing, or the second role, which is very important, is of a Scrum team. We also call Scrum team as development team or a solution team. They comprise of people who are actually developers, the people who are actually going to build anything or build the website. They include developers, testers, analysts, anyone. So they are the one who understand the requirements and they start building something. Mostly there are 5 to 6 people in a Scrum team. The last and the most important one, a Scrum role, is a Scrum Master. Now, Scrum Master is a person who understands the Scrum framework. He helps the organization to apply those Scrum framework. He also helps the team to mature, and he ensures that the team is collaborating and they're working effectively together. A Scrum Master also removes any obstacle or any impediments that the team might have. The key is we want the team, the developers who are building the website, to be focused, because if they're focused, if they don't have any distractions, then they can complete the deliverable within that specific time, which is a month in this case. So Scrum Master, if there is any distraction, he will jump in and he will remove that distraction for the team. So these are the 3 important roles. If we move to the next slide, now let's understand some of the Scrum activities, which are also known as sprint activities. Now, the first sprint activity is we need to have a sprint planning. This is where the Scrum Master, product owner, and the Scrum team sits down together and they plan for that first month. Let's call the first month as a sprint. Now, for the first sprint, they will sit down and they say, okay, what is the most important thing that we need to complete within this month? And they will prioritize everything and they will plan all the requirements accordingly for the first sprint. So this is your sprint planning session. Then you have daily stand-ups. And daily stand-up is, like we said, is daily meetings for the Scrum team. Usually they all stand up. That's why it's known as daily stand-up. And it's only for 15 minutes where every developer tells the rest of the team what they have done so far, what they're planning to do, and how they are helping the team complete the sprint objective. Now, like we said, one of the principles of Agile is collaboration. Now, by having daily stand-up, we are including those collaboration practices within a Scrum so that the team is able to talk to each other. So the more they talk to each other, the more they understand what everyone is doing, the more they're able to move faster. The third activity in Scrum is refinement. In the refinement or the grooming session, this is where the team sits down with the product owner again, and they understand exactly what each requirement means. Sometimes they need to refine them. Some requirements might not be clear. So this is an opportunity where a developer or the team of developers sit down with the product owner and they can ask specific questions just to get that clarity around those requirements. The fourth one is a sprint review. In the sprint review, this is done when the sprint completes, a product is ready, and you sit down with your product owner and the customer and you show the product owner and the customer what you have built. In our case, the first home page of a website will be completed in first month of a sprint, and then we'll sit down with our stakeholders and we'll show them what we have built. Now, this is a great opportunity for a customer to tell the team whether he likes it or he doesn't like it. if there's any changes that he wants the team to make, that can be included in form of a requirement, and we can include them in the next sprint. The last, and I think this is very important, is a sprint retrospective. What is a sprint retrospective? It is strictly for the team to sit down and talk to each other of what went well, what didn't go well with their team, and what they can do to improve their collaboration or the sprint planning. So this is just for the team to sit down and say how we can improve for the next sprint. Now, why is it important? Because through retrospective, a Scrum Master is enabled to improve the sprint, improve the team, and make them more efficient sprint by sprint. Let's move to the next slide. In the next slide, this captures everything that we do or everything we just understood in a nutshell. So we understand going from left to right, we understand that there is a product owner. The product owner role is giving all the requirements or making a list of all the requirements and prioritizing them. The list of requirements is known as a product backlog. Now, once we review the list of requirements and we know what are the priorities that we need to work on, the Scrum team or a solution team, they will review it with the product owner and they will select the things or the requirements that they are able to complete within that one sprint. And a sprint can be anything between 2 weeks to a month cycle. So once they select the requirements that they're going to work on, it becomes a sprint backlog. Now, once we have a sprint backlog, that marks the beginning of a sprint. The first thing they'll do, sprint planning. Okay, how do we handle these requirements? How do we get them completed? Second thing, they'll have daily stand-up meetings just to make sure that everybody's on track. A Scrum Master will be closely monitoring the team and he will ensure that if they have any impediments or blockers, he will take them and he will remove them for the team. Once the sprint completes, now we can have a sprint review or a sprint demo where the team sits down with the product owner and the stakeholders and they tell them or show them what they have built and get their feedback. And the last thing is the team sits down together for the sprint retrospective, and this is strictly for the team to see how we can improve for the next sprint, what things we can do to improve ourselves. And that's the whole Scrum framework in a nutshell. It's easy to understand, but it takes a lot of time to master it and to really apply it on your organization, because there will be a lot of changes that you go through in your organization to apply these kind of practices. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is a last slide, guys, and this is where I just wanted to highlight the career opportunities in Agile field. Now, Agile field is I would say increasing, or the demand of Agile is very high, and we understand why it's high, because the market has changed. We need an ability, an organization actually needs an ability to respond to those changing requirements faster and to deliver the features or their products to the customer in a much a strict timeline basis. So every organization, every sector, that can be banking, can be manufacturing, can be any software company, any insurance company, they all are trying to apply Agile practices. Now, of course, when every organization is trying to apply Agile practices, that increases the demand of Agile career or Agile jobs. So on your screen, you can see that Scrum Master is one of the Agile, one of the jobs or career field in Agile, and that is the second most highest demand in Canada. And these stats are actually taken from 2017, so we don't have the current stat, but I'm sure that has actually increased even further. So as more and more companies understand Agile, and the more and more companies understand the value that Agile brings, the more demand you have for Scrum Masters, product owners, and people who can actually develop things. That can be developers, solution architects, and programmers anyone or testers. So if you're planning to change your career, then I would say look into an agile, any career field that is in any field in agile that will bring you the biggest benefit. And there are a lot of training opportunities that are available in Canada that you can make that you can avail to get that understanding in Scrum or in Agile. That being said, we'll move on to the next slide. I want to complete my presentation because I was at your position when in 2006 when I was planning to move to Canada. So always remember one thing: if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So challenges are always good for your career. Anything that can challenge you will only stretch you and make you a better version of yourself. So accept challenges and be open to them and be always eager to learn new things. That being said, let's end this presentation and I'll hand it over to Sonia and we can take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Abbas. That was very informative. And I see that there's already questions rolling in.
All
At
right.
this point, I will ask you to just turn your webcam on. Here, I'll share it with you.
Okay.
And everyone, I'll give you a few moments to type in your questions. But oops, so we already have some here. One sec. Again, very informative, and you managed to complete it at a good time, so we have lots of time for questions.
All right.
Um,
Beautiful.
so Rohan wants to know, he's completely new to Agile, and he wants to know what certifications does he needs in order to get started in the career in Agile. Is it PSM or CSM or like SAFe or any others?
All right. So if you want to get started in Agile career, both CSM or PSM are equally important. You can take any one of them. I would say before you even go to the certification, really understand what Agile is and understand the role. Once you understand the role, then you'll know. Knowing yourself, you'll know if you'll be able to do it or not. So I think the personality match is very important. And the biggest mistake that people do is when they just see, oh, there's an opportunity and they try to grab it. I think the first step should be really understanding that opportunity, or let's say in this case, really understanding what a Scrum Master does. What are the soft skills that you need to be a Scrum Master, and then matching it with your own personality. And if you feel like this is a comfortable zone and you're made for this, then yeah, understand Agile, and there's a lot of videos available on YouTube to get that understanding. And once you're sure that you want to be a Scrum Master, then go for either PSM or CSM. Now, I know you also asked me about SAFe. Now, SAFe is, I would say, would be the last step because it's more about scaling of an Agile. You won't get a better understanding or you won't understand it properly if you really don't understand what Scrum Master is or what CSM is. So get that understanding first, and then maybe after a year, get that SAFe certification as well. I hope that answers your question.
I'm sure it does. It was honestly very informative. I was just thinking that I don't think we can get a better person in to talk about this Scrum and Agile. So I'm very glad that we had you on.
All right, thank
The
you.
next question is from Mama Doe and wants to know what's the difference between a PMP and a Scrum Master? Is it easy for a PMP professional to find and integrate an Agile job or environment? Or does a PMP need to certify Scrum to be successful in the Agile business?
All right. So I teach both PMP and Scrum, and I can tell you there's a big difference. PMP focuses more on project management practices using the waterfall approach, whereas Scrum is totally a different practice altogether. Because when you're a Scrum Master, you're not focused on the deliverable; you're actually focused more on a team. So if I were to explain it again, I would say this: PMP is used by project managers. The responsibility of the project managers is all about command and control. So they have a strict timeline and they make sure that the team is delivering on those timeline based on the dates that have been selected. Whereas the Scrum Master, he doesn't create a plan. The team creates a plan, and Scrum Master is only responsible to ensure that the team is actually working together and they have harmony, and they're using more effective effective communication channels to really collaborate and get the thing done faster. So the focus is totally different. So if you want to be in Agile, I won't say that PMP is a certification that you want to get. I would say PMI also offers PMI ACP, which is catered towards Agile. I would say take that certification. And there was a second part to this question where you were asking me if a project manager can change his role to become a Scrum Master. For sure they can. If they see that they have the ability and they can change that mindset, for sure anybody can be a Scrum Master.
Thank you, Mas. The next question is from Rafat. He wants to know, how do you estimate costs for a project using Scrum framework, and who is responsible for doing this?
All right. So that's a very detailed question, to be honest. Let me try to explain it. So when it comes to cost for Agile, your cost is the cost of the team that you have in hand. Let's say you have 6 developers building something and they're working on each sprint, and it's a consistent team. So whatever you're paying for those 6 developers is your cost, right? And you know this is going to be a fixed cost because each sprint, the team is going to remain the same. So that's how you do costing in Agile. Now, when you're talking about project management, that's totally different story, but I don't think you want to know that. The second part of your question was who does it? A Scrum Master can do it. Mostly in big organization, we have financial analysts who sit down with Scrum Masters and they get all the information and they complete this task themselves. So Scrum Master just provides the information, and financial analysts are the one who actually do the costing and everything.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, and another question that went over my head, but I'm sure you can answer, is from Ken. Again, he's thanking you for an amazing presentation, and he wants to
All right.
know
You're welcome.
what's the key difference between Scrum, Kanban, Lean, and XP?
All right. So they're all frameworks that help you to apply agile principles. The 4 principles that we read, those are the 4 principles that these framework help you to apply. Now I can give you a quick comparison between Scrum and Kanban. Scrum is focused more on software development. With Scrum, everything is time boxed within 2 sprint or within a sprint. And a sprint can be anywhere between a week's time to a month's time. So you take a piece of work and you try to build anything. In this case, let's say you're building a website and you complete the task or you build something within that sprint. Kanban does not use a concept of sprint. Kanban says, okay, if you're able to build anything, let's say if you're able to build it in a day, then you should be completing it in a day. Why do we need to wait for the sprint to get completed? So Kanban is more about managing the workflow, whereas Scrum is more about managing the team and the user stories and what they're trying to build. So that's a slight difference, but both of them are great framework, and you can apply both of them in any situation. Mostly if I'm involved as an agile coach on projects, and if I know that the project is about building a software, then I mostly lean towards Scrum. But if I'm involved to a team where a team is they're not building anything, but they have like a bunch of tasks that they need to complete, then I use mostly Kanban.
Thank you. Rafat has another question, wants to know, there's different certifications for Scrum with different bodies. First, like, why did you choose CSM over PSM or other certifications?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you really need to understand the market trends and how that governing body is performing when they're offering you these certification. So when it comes to Scrum, there are 2 governing bodies. One is for CSM, one is for PSM. They both are good, but when I was doing my research, and this is totally my judgment, I felt like CSM is getting more popular. It had more popularity, and For that reason, I selected CSM, because if it has more popularity, the more companies are recognizing CSM. Because the one thing that you can do is you can go on online and you can search for Scrum Master role or a job, and you'll see in the job description they'll always have CSM. So most of the jobs that I came across, they had CSM instead of PSM. That's why I chose CSM. But you can take either one, because I'm sure both of them provide exactly the same knowledge.
Thank you. The next question here from Sahil. He's in manufacturing operations manager with over 10 years of experience, and he's heard of agile supply chains, and he wants to know if you can shed some light on that as well, and what would be suitable roles for him.
Yeah. So in manufacturing companies, Kanban is very famous, is popular, because like I said, manufacturing companies go through task by task. Okay, we need to build this, we need to develop this. So Kanban has a very strong framework to help you complete the work in a very efficient way. So the focus of Kanban is, instead of focusing on people or micromanaging people or how much time they're spending on at work, it focuses more on the flow of the work. So the old school was, okay, we need to monitor, we need to micromanage people. Kanban says, let's not micromanage people, let's manage the flow of work. If you're able to manage the flow of work, people will complete the work in a more effective way. So in for manufacturing, I would say get the certification or get an understanding of Kanban. It's very simple. You can spend a day to get that certification, and or even you can watch some videos to get that understanding. And you can start by applying within your team, because if you're a manager, of course, you have some people working for you, so you can apply that on your team as well. That can enhance your learning as well.
Thank you. The next question from Chanjot is actually a coworker of yours. It's someone who works at RBC
Right.
in customer service and wants to know how to go about becoming a business analyst.
All right. Yeah, business analyst is a great profession. I think the reason I think business analyst is a great profession is because it builds the foundation for you to do anything in life. Um, because you get that analytical sense. You always challenge people. You question why we are doing certain things. So you have the ability to actually dissect problems into simpler areas, and you tackle it in a different way. So I think business analyst is a great career move if you want to look into it. Now question is, how do we get into it? uh, Simple. Yeah, I would say take a course on business analysis. Take a course from somebody who can really not only just give you the bookish knowledge of what business analyst is all about, because you can get that by reading a book yourself, but sit down with someone who can actually show you practically what a business analyst does, and how you need to question certain things with your stakeholders, and how you need to solve a problem for an organization. I think practical knowledge is very important in becoming a business analyst. And since you are an RBC employee, I know RBC has a mentorship program. You can always sign up for that mentorship program and ask them to assign you a business analyst, so that you can work with them on a weekly basis, and you can actually ask them specific question around business analysis. And send me an email, and I can help you out too as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so that was another question. People want to know if they can get in touch with you. So that's a yes. Do reach out to him if you're interested in getting to know more information. Ken has another question, wants to know that you work for RBC, but for example, like in the data science team at RBC, do they use Agile or is it just for software development?
So no, Agile is actually applied everywhere nowadays, because, like we said, there are different frameworks that you can use, and different frameworks are built for different departments. For example, for infrastructure, we still have projects running on Scrum, Kanban. It doesn't have to be software as such. You can apply those four principles in anywhere you want, because they're more, if you just follow those 4 principles. I don't know if you guys can take a copy of the slide. Sonia, I don't know if you're going to share it with them.
Yeah, so they will get the whole recording of the webinar in their email
All right.
afterwards.
So once you get the recording, just review those 4 principles. So once you apply those 4 principles, you're technically agile, and that can be applied in every company, in any job that you're doing.
Thank you. Another question, I think everyone has this question on their minds from Tony, wants to know how easy it is to change careers to agile related careers.
Well, it all depends on you. If I have to give you a very candid answer, I think it depends on people, on individuals. Some people are eager to learn. They go extra mile to understand it, to reach out to people. They start their own small projects and they run it on Agile. So it all depends on yourself, on how you want to fast track your learning and how do you want to find those opportunity and do the networking to get onboarded to Agile. So I hope that helps. That's the best answer I can give.
I think so too. Thank you. Ajita has a question. Does the role of a PM diminish with the Scrum Master role as the team is self-developing?
So the role of project manager, Scrum Master,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
project manager.
yeah.
All right. So the role of project manager doesn't, I won't say it won't get eliminated. Of course, there will be some decrease in the demand for project manager, but it will be a slight decrease because there's still a lot of projects that they require project managers. And second thing, whenever we have changes, people just need to realign themselves. Like I, being a project manager, I understood the trend of my organization, of my market that I'm in, and purposely chose Scrum because I knew that's the future. So I'm sure a lot of project managers are changing their direction to become a Scrum Master or a product owner. So it, it's all depends on people how creative they are, but to straight away answer your question, it will have a slight decrease but it will not get eliminated.
Thank you. Adnan has a question. I'm not sure if you would know, but I'm sure it's readily available online. In the gaming industry, like video games and things, do you think that Agile and Scrum are used?
I think Agile and Scrum are definitely used. I know for sure that all the big organizations like Google, Amazon, Uber, Apple, they're all using Agile practices because that's why we have updates on a monthly basis on Apple or Samsung. Um, that's the future of any organization. Even if you think gaming is still using a software, so definitely they're on Agile. But just to add on it, and this is just something for you to think about. If you guys have an opportunity, check out the John Deere, which manufactures tractors and machineries for farmers. Check out their vision on YouTube. So you can say John Deere vision or advertisement, and you'll see that they're looking at their advertisement. You'll know that they're on Agile because they're so futuristic. So you know that futuristic approach can only be applied by doing Agile. So 100% Agile is the way to move forward.
Awesome, thank you. Devangi has a question. To become a Scrum Master, does it require relevant experience? Like what opportunities are there for candidates who have the certification, but they don't really have the experience?
Yeah. So experience is the biggest challenge in becoming a Scrum Master. So you can get the certification, but I would say look for opportunities, and there are a lot of opportunities in Canada. I feel
Yeah.
um, there are a lot of organizations that are they know that they need Scrum Masters, and they are actually providing training to those people as well. So they are identifying anyone who has the interest in becoming Scrum Master, and they provide train. I know RBC provides 3 months training for anyone who wants to become a Scrum Master. So there's a high demand, short supply. Of course, there are opportunities. So I would just say look for those opportunities and hop on it.
Thank you. Sanober has a question, wants to know, is a Scrum Master more of a project coordinator or project manager in Agile? And can a Scrum Master also be called an Agile Project Manager?
Yeah, good question. So a Scrum Master cannot be called a project coordinator. A Scrum Master cannot be called a project manager because there's a totally different mindset. The focus is different. Project manager, like I said, a project manager is all about command and control. So he commands and controls the project plan. A project, whereas a Scrum Master is not about command and control. The command and control lies within the team. A Scrum Master is more of a coach, a manager, a teacher who makes sure that everybody understands Scrum and they are working closely. I keep on saying that he ensures that the team is working closely, but I think I need to give you guys a little bit of background. And since we have few minutes, I'll just spend 1 minute over it. When you have any team or group of people, and you guys have must have experiences when you went to a university or college, when you form new friendship or you start working with people, you always go through phases. The first phase is known as just knowing each other. The second phase is when you actually start storming with people. That's when you get into conflicts, arguments, you get uncomfortable, and once you pass that storming stage, then you start normalizing things. Then you know who your friends are, who you can work better, who you don't like, and after that you start performing. And this is where people are actually completing the work on time and they are effective. So these are known as Tuckman ladder. So Scrum Master ensures that the team, because it's newly formed, he ensures that the team is going through those phases smoothly. So if I'm assigned to a team as a Scrum Master, my responsibility would be to ensure that they actually come to that storming stage and they start that arguments and conflicts and everything. Because the more you have it, the more you understand each other. And then the second focus would be, now how do I get them out of that storming session so that now they can start performing. So there are a lot of management practices that you need to know in order to effectively indirectly influence people to get to that level. So this is what a Scrum Master does mainly. And apart from that, he is also a coach. So it's very easy when you have a command and control and your position is giving you that authority to challenge people. But it's very hard when you're a Scrum Master and you want to influence people without having an authority. So when I keep on saying, guys, look into that role before you hop onto this board, this is exactly what I mean. You really need to understand what a Scrum Master does before you say, okay, I want to be a Scrum Master. If you feel that you are good at coaching, if you feel that you have people skills and you're good with people, go for it, because this is a profession that will really pay off.
Thank you, Buzz. Again, like you're a very good speaker at this. I'm glad that we have you on board for this, and you've been answering all the questions extremely well. Rohan has another question. Wants to know that you've successfully obtained your PMP, CBAP, and now CSM, and he wants to know how you see your roles develop in the over the next 10 years or so, because this will probably give everyone a better understanding of their career path as well.
Yeah. So it's a bit challenging question because I think it has two parts. One is you're asking me about my vision, how do I see myself, and you're also asking me if anyone is a Scrum Master in general, then how does their path is going to be. So just to answer from my perspective, everyone has a vision, right, where they want to be at. I have my own vision. My vision is to be a project consultant where I understand all the methodologies. Organizations call me and I'm able to tell them what methodology or what framework can work for them and how to apply it and work with them to become faster, better, and more efficient. That's why I have my PMP. That's why I have my CBAP. That's why I have Kanban, CSM, and I need to understand everything that comes under the umbrella of project management. That's my vision. Now, if you're talking about generally, what is the vision of a Scrum Master? I think a Scrum Master has a vision to become an Agile coach. A Scrum Master is actually an Agile coach because he understands Scrum to detail, and helps an organization to apply Scrum practices on a team level and on an organizational level. So it has a great vision, a great future, I feel. And you can always start by becoming a Scrum Master, then a senior Scrum Master, then an Agile coach. You can be, after an Agile coach, you can be an Agile coach at an enterprise level, and then finally being a consultant. So that is, I feel, can be a natural progression for any Scrum Master.
Awesome, thank you. Danashri has another question. So now, how different is Agile from ITIL in support environments?
All right. I'm not sure. I don't have that much information about ITIL, but I know ITIL is more focused towards infrastructure. So it has practices of how, if an organization is an infrastructure organization, how they can apply those ITIL practices and be more efficient. Apart from that, I don't have much information about ITIL, so I cannot really differentiate between ITIL versus Scrum. But I feel like they're very different because Scrum it can be applied to anywhere, either it's infrastructure, software, manufacturing, any organization, whereas ITIL is more focused towards infrastructure only.
Thank you. There's a lot of repeated questions. I hope everyone's gotten their questions answered. Amir has a question, wants to know what kit of tools they use for Sprint, TFS, Jira, and other tools.
The common tools that are being used nowadays are Jira, Confluence, like you said, and LeanKit. These are the three most commonly used tools for Agile, whether it be Scrum or Kanban.
Okay, thank you. And Sahil has a question regarding Kanban for manufacturing industries. What are the certifications you would suggest for that?
I would say go for Kanban certification. It's a Lean University or Lean Kanban University is offering courses and certification for Kanban. You can Google it. It's known as Kanban Management Professional. That's a certification that you're looking into. So look into that certification, Google it, and you'll get all the information. There's only one university providing Kanban certification, so you won't have tons of option anyways.
Okay, so then Ashri has another question. What's the best source or book for Scrum Master or Agile certification?
For best source of book, okay, there are tons of books for Scrum. I would say if you want to understand Agile, then PMI ACP book is really good. You can use that. For Scrum, the understanding Scrum. I don't know the author, but maybe I can share that information with Sonia later. I don't know if I can share some good reads if you're looking for to show Sonia, and she will send it to you guys then.
For
And
sure.
that's one thing on my plate then.
Awesome. Devangi has a question, wants to know, can an HR professional become a Scrum Master?
Yeah, for sure. If you're interested in Scrum, anyone can change their people be, become from doctors to lawyers. Like I don't see why you wouldn't be able to become a Scrum Master if you want to. 100% you can.
Thank you. Okay, so interesting question here. Pooja wants to know, what if the developer and the testers are not getting along with each other? How will the Scrum Master tackle this situation?
So interesting question and very specific question. As a Scrum Master, there are different channels that you or different approaches that you can take. First of all, you can have you really need to understand why are they not getting along. So you need to do some kind of root cause analysis. Whatever uh, whatever the root cause is, then you have to have other management strategies to understand how can I remove this so that they work together. So you can have interviews with them, one-on-ones, so just to understand, okay, what is really happening and how can we help each other to just develop that professional relationship. We're not asking people to become friends, but at least when you're working you have to have that professional relationship. So that's what Scrum Master is aiming for. So you can have one-on-ones, or you can, if nothing is working, a Scrum Master does have the option to remove a person out of the team as well. So that can be your last resort as well.
Thank you. We have a question from Sam Rate wants to know, as a fresher is a fresher though having previous quality experience in testing. He's learning Agile. So his question is, learning Agile and doing certification, will this be beneficial for him to get a job in the IT field again?
Sorry, so the question is, just to understand if I know the question, is he previously was in IT field and he wants to get into IT field again, and he's
Yes,
asking if this certification is going to help him get into IT.
exactly.
I would say 100%. Yeah, this is an IT related career. So if you want to become a Scrum Master, you will be working in an IT field. If you want, you can choose the field, whichever organization or whichever sector you wanna apply those Scrum practices at. But for sure, it will help you in IT field as well.
Thank you. We're going to take one last question. I know
Sure.
there's tons of questions, but everyone knows that you can reach out to Abbas if you have any other questions, or you can write to us at onlineservices@accessemployment.ca. Last question here is from Pooja, wants to know, can a team be changed during a sprint?
Uh, a team can change during the sprint? No, because once the sprint is started, we are locked down. We have to be totally focused on our deliverable. So changing a team means that you have to actually stop the sprint, create a new team, and then start the sprint all over again. So all the work that they have done will be actually discarded. So that's not advisable.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess you have to make sure that your developers or testers are getting along with each other. Well, thank you for your questions, everyone. Abbas, I cannot thank you enough for the information that you have shared. That was a great deal of information, and you were able to share it in such a short time. Some people were asking for Abbas's details, and they're up on the screen right now. And when you do get a recording of the webinar, you will obviously be able to see the slide there as well. So you can get in touch with him, or again, you can get in touch with us at onlineservices@accessemployment.ca as well. Just to keep you on the line, just for a few more announcements. Again, if you have any questions related to resumes, interviews, or just anything about your job search, you can go on our website, go on eAccess, and click on any of the tiles. We've got tons of updated resources and previous RBC webinars that you might have missed as well. Again, thank you everyone for your participation today. You can stay in touch with us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you want to know anything that's coming up, it will probably be posted on social media before I even know about it. So check that out. And everyone, thank you so much for joining Abbas. I cannot thank you enough for being here today. It was definitely very, very informative and helpful. I'm sure we'll get lots of people watching this recording. Everyone, when you do get the recording, feel free to share it with people that you know who are overseas, even on their way to Canada. It will be helpful for everyone. Abbas, I'd like you to say anything before we leave.
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? Thank you everyone for joining. I have said before, I love teaching and training, so this was a great opportunity. Thank you, Sonia, for all the coordination and emails and keeping me on track. And this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Buzz, and hopefully we'll get you back. I think we're gonna make you come back for sure in the future. Thank you so
All
much.
right, no
All right,
problem.
take care, everyone. I hope
All
you
right.
all have a great day or evening ahead.